This comment will allow me to talk about big stories versus small stories. This immediately made me think of the book Wild by Cheryl Strayed, which is a huge compliment. You're talking about my book, A Paper Orchestra. So if you haven't read Wild or seen the movie based on the book Wild, do it. It's fantastic. And that is a small story. So that is a story about a woman dealing with the death of her mother, goes for a hike. I mean, talk about small. She's not diving out of burning buildings. She's not running from the mob. She's going on a walk. That's a real small story. The stories in my book, you could argue, are even smaller because they don't deal with death. So one of the stories, so as a kid, I was very nerdy, very artsy. I was always chosen last in gym class, but I always wanted to know what it would feel like to be an athlete. So I tried out for the high school football team. I never got what I wanted, so I tried out for my college football team as a walk-on. That's a small story, just for that one moment, just to feel what it would feel like, to be an athlete. And another story, I was at a wedding. I was in my early 20s and slow dancing with the bridesmaid, and my sister pulled me aside. She was really embarrassed for me. She was like, you need to grow up and take a dance class because you look ridiculous out there. And so that story is about the time in my life where you're not a boy and you're not yet a man, but I'm struggling to figure out how maybe to become a man, all in the setting of taking a dance class. So small stories. If you want to write big, like if you want to write the next James Bond movie, you need to learn how to write small first. And that means being willing to write the truth. And like when I take these stories, read the book, but I also tour with it as a one-man show. You can get tickets over there and we're adding cities. And afterwards, people say to me, you're so brave to reveal so much about yourself. But the thing is, it would be brave of me not to. It would be brave of me to write a book and tell everyone what a great writer I am and then put out a horrible book. That would be brave. So the same thing with Cheryl Strayed. Strayd's not even her last name. That's the name she gave herself because she was in a relationship and she strayed. So that's the scarlet letter that she gave herself. And she writes the truth. And when you write the truth, man, everyone, it's just riveting. But writing the truth is hard because you have to figure out what the truth is. There were times when I'd write a story, even though these are all true stories, I'd write a moment and I was writing it and I go, no, that feels like the TV version of how I would have felt. What's the real version? How did I really feel? And then I'd have to dig deeper. And then once you figure out what the truth is, you have to learn you have to be willing to share it. That's the part people think is brave. But if you want to write big, like the next James Bond movie or whatever, you need to learn how to write small first. Because the small is the part that people resonate with. All those Marvel movies, the big parts are the same. The fight scenes, the explosions, the aliens and all that stuff. That's the same. But the difference between a good Marvel movie and a bad one often comes down to the small storylines in it. That's what people really gravitate towards. So if you want to write big, learn how to write small first. Hope you come see me on tour.